In a quiet monastery nestled in the mountains of Tibet, there lived a wise and revered Buddhist master named Master Li. His presence was like the still waters of a deep lake, calm, reflective, and profoundly deep. Monks from distant lands traveled to seek his wisdom, but he rarely spoke. Instead, he taught the power of silence. One day, a young monk named Tenzing arrived at the monastery. He was eager and full of questions. His mind raced with thoughts about enlightenment, suffering, and the purpose of life. On his very first morning at the monastery, he approached Master Li. "Master," Tenzing asked, "what is the true meaning of life?" Master Li remained silent. He simply looked into Tenzing's eyes with a deep, knowing gaze. Confused but undeterred, Tenzing continued, "Master, why is there suffering in this world?" Again, silence. Frustration began to creep into Tenzing's heart. He had traveled for weeks to find this great teacher, yet he received no answers. Over the next few weeks, he observed the other monks and their disciplined way of life. Every morning before sunrise, they meditated in silence, worked in silence, and even ate their meals with minimal words. The only sounds were the wind rustling through the trees, the chirping of birds, and the distant echo of temple bells. One evening, unable to contain himself, Tenzing went to Master Li's chamber. "Master," he said impatiently, "why do you not speak? How will I ever learn if you refuse to answer my questions?" Master Li finally spoke. His voice was gentle yet powerful. "Come with me." Tenzing followed him up a steep path leading to a high mountain cliff. They stood at the edge looking down at the vast valley below. The wind howled around them, yet there was a profound peace in the air. "Listen," Master Li said softly. Tenzing listened. At first, he only heard the sound of the wind. Then as he focused, he began to notice more. The rustling leaves, the distant murmur of a stream, the rhythmic breath of his own body. Master Li turned to him and said, "In silence, the truth reveals itself." Tenzing frowned. "But Master, I do not understand. How does silence answer my questions?" Master Li picked up a small stone and threw it into the valley below. They watched as it disappeared into the depths. Then he took Tenzing's hand and placed it over his own heart. "Do you feel that?" he asked. Tenzing nodded. "Yes, Master. I feel your heartbeat." Master Li smiled. "Does your heart need to speak for you to know it is there?" Tenzing was taken aback. He had never thought of it that way. Master Li continued, "The greatest truths are not spoken. They are felt. When you still your mind and embrace silence, wisdom comes naturally. Words are like the waves of the ocean, always moving, sometimes turbulent. But silence is like the depths of the ocean, calm, vast, and full of hidden treasures." For the first time, Tenzing understood. He had been so consumed with asking questions that he had not taken the time to listen to the world, to his breath, to his own heart. From that day forward, Tenzing changed. He stopped seeking answers through words and instead sought them in the stillness of meditation, in the silent appreciation of nature, and in the quiet understanding between souls. The power of silence became his greatest teacher. Years passed, and one day, another young monk arrived at the monastery, full of questions, just as Tenzing once had been. The young monk asked, "Master Tenzing, what is the true meaning of life?" Tenzing smiled and remained silent. But this time, he took the young monk by the hand and led him on a journey beyond the monastery walls. They walked through the dense forest, where towering trees whispered secrets through their rustling leaves. They visited a still lake where the reflection of the moon danced on the water's surface, showing the monk the beauty of undisturbed clarity. Days passed as they traveled deeper into the mountains. They met a humble farmer who toiled in silence, yet found joy in his labor. They observed a mother holding her newborn, her heart full of love without a single word spoken. Tenzing pointed at these moments, but he said nothing. At last, they reached a secluded cave at the mountain's peak. Sitting together, they meditated in the profound quiet of nature. The young monk, at first restless, soon felt a shift within himself. He began to hear the language of silence, the peace in his breath, the heartbeat of the earth, the silent wisdom of existence itself. After many days of contemplation, the young monk turned to Tenzing and smiled. There were no more questions in his eyes, only understanding. As they returned to the monastery, the young monk bowed deeply to Tenzing. "Master, I understand now. Silence does not withhold answers, it reveals them." Tenzing placed a gentle hand on his shoulder and nodded. And in that moment, without a single word, a new journey of wisdom had begun.